I've been using SleepMe's tracker for about a month, and there's a lot I want to talk about. As you're probably aware, getting quality sleep is one of the most important things you can do for your health and well-being. And using a sleep tracking device can help us better understand how we're sleeping, what's affecting our sleep, and what we can do to improve it. SleepMe released their tracker a few months ago, and they were kind enough to let me test it out. Let's jump right in. The SleepMe tracker is really easy to set up. When you open the box, you get the sleep tracker pad and the hub. You put the tracker pad on your side of the bed so that it's about chest height when you lay down. I was actually kind of surprised that you were instructed to put the tracker underneath a mattress pad if you had one. It made me a little skeptical whether this thing was actually gonna work and track my sleep. And you put the hub close enough to an outlet, either on the floor or on a table. I put mine on the floor because honestly, I have more than enough stuff on my bedside table. And it's important to note that you don't need a Dock Pro for this thing to work. It can serve as a standalone tracker, but we'll talk more about the Dock Pro pairing later. The tracker pad itself is super thin, 0.03 inches or about 0.7 millimeters thick. Even the chick from The Princess and the Pea wouldn't be able to feel this thing. But I digress. Okay, so once you got the hub plugged in, you gotta log into the SleepMe app and pair the device. You have to enable Bluetooth so your phone can find the hub, and then you connect it to your Wi-Fi. Something important to note is that it can only connect to 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi networks, but I learned that all Wi-Fi routers have a 2.4 gigahertz band. So if you have Wi-Fi, you should be good to go. And once it's connected, you're done. You can pretty much forget that it's there. Now, if you have a Dock Pro, you can enable Hiber-AI. This basically makes real-time adjustments to the temperature of your bed to optimize for deep and REM sleep. And it's actually really cool. Now, to give you a more tangible example, I have a sleep program set up with the Dock Pro so that at 9:35 the bed cools to 73 degrees. It stays 73 degrees for the first half of the night, and then the second half of the night it bumps up to 75 degrees. And this is all based on personal preference, by the way. With Hiber-AI, it makes adjustments based on the sleep that you're getting that night. Alright, let's shift gears and talk about sleep tracking. SleepMe's tracker utilizes sleep sessions. A sleep session begins once the tracker has detected that you've been in bed asleep for at least 20 minutes, and it ends when you've been out of bed for at least 15 minutes. So theoretically, you could have multiple sleep sessions, but if you do have multiple sleep sessions, that will be aggregated into your daily sleep zone. And that factors all phases of sleep across all of the sleep sessions. And before I forget, you can have your phone on airplane mode as long as you enabled Bluetooth and Wi-Fi when you first set up the device. This sounds silly, but the biggest thing that I had to get used to was having to wait at least 15 minutes before I could get my sleep data. And maybe that's kind of a blessing in disguise because I probably shouldn't be waking up and immediately grabbing my phone. Now, the data in the app is laid out in a way that's very easy to understand. The sleep zone is basically like your overall sleep score. So it takes things like your total sleep or time spent in deep and REM sleep into account. Then you have your sleep session and sleep stage data, and that maps out the different stages of sleep you were in throughout the night. Then come the highlights. If you're using Hiber-AI, you'll see how many adjustments and automations took place throughout the night. And if you want, you could see more specific details as far as when the temperatures changed. The highlights also show metrics related to HRV or heart rate variability, resting heart rate, respiration rate, and number of movements. Finally, you've got deep and REM sleep trends over the last 4 days. Also, all of this data is compatible with Apple Health or Android's Health Connect app. Something I'd like to see in a future app update would be being able to see data over a longer period of time. For instance, has my bedtime and wake up time been consistent over the last week, over the last month, over the last 6 months? And with that data, can the app help me better understand what sorts of things I might want to pay more attention to? And I would like the option to be able to provide feedback on whether the sleep data seems to be accurate. For instance, if I read a book before bed, I don't think that that should be counted towards my awake time. Really, it doesn't show me how long it took me to fall asleep. Now, when we're comparing data across different devices, it is important to note that no device, no tracker is going to be 100% accurate. Therefore, every tracker's data is gonna look different. In terms of accuracy, I would argue that wearable trackers have a better chance of being more accurate because they're actually on your body. But what I think is most important is that you stick with one tracker, one device. That's how you're gonna be able to better identify your baseline and any patterns you see over time. I tried comparing the SleepMe tracker to the Oura Ring and the Muse, and I tried comparing the 8 sleep data to my Oura Ring data, and you know what the outcome was? One big headache. To really test the accuracy, we would need to do legit sleep studies while also using these devices so we could compare the data. Maybe one day I would love to be able to do that, but today is not that day. I will say that the SleepMe tracker data, it surprised me. It depicts what seems like a fairly accurate representation of my night's sleep. Let's dive into the pros and cons, and we'll start with the pros. The biggest pros for me are that it's a non-wearable tracker and you don't have to charge it. It's incredibly easy to integrate into your life. My Oura Ring, for example, the ring itself is kind of bulky and I have to charge it every 4 to 5 days. And I am one of those people who hates having a low charge or low battery on anything. And also wearing devices like the Muse S headband is kind of a hassle every night. So I love that I don't have to think about anything and my sleep gets tracked automatically. The tracker is also super thin and you can't feel it on the bed. And for people who already have the Dock Pro, the Hiber-AI feature is pretty amazing and it has helped me get better sleep. But I've gotta warn you, it spoils you. It's a good problem to have. Also, the app is very user-friendly and the way the data is laid out is easy to understand. I think the more seamlessly you can integrate something into your life, the more likely you are going to benefit from it. Now for the cons. So for me personally, this might seem silly, but I kind of wish you didn't have to wait 15 minutes after you wake up and get out of bed to see your sleep data. I know that this is an instant gratification problem, but with all of the other trackers that I've used, I'm used to getting the data immediately. Another con is that it relies on your Wi-Fi. So if the power or the Wi-Fi goes out in the middle of the night, you're SOL. Now the final con is the price. It's expensive. It's $199 US for the tracker itself, but then you have to pay an additional $5.99 every month after the first month for the membership, which gives you access to the data. And if you and a partner want the tracker, you each have to get your own, but you only need one membership. Personally, I don't like membership fees, and I don't like having to buy a device and then having to buy access to it. But it seems like more and more companies are adopting this model, so maybe this is just how it's gonna be. But I think this is really important feedback to share with companies, and maybe one day we'll see change. I also recognize that any sort of sleep optimization should be seen as an investment. These sorts of things don't come cheap, and if they are cheap, you should probably question the quality. All in all, I have been very pleasantly surprised by the tracker and especially with the Hiber-AI capability with the Dock Pro. And I owe a big thank you to SleepMe for letting me test out their tracker. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I've picked out a few other videos that I thought you might enjoy. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.